Just wait to see if anything pops in on here. Left two lanes. That's me. Coming over. Two. Like I said, just wait to see if anybody wants to pop in here at 6:20 in the morning. But it's, I've had people from all around the world. I should go to a headset. Shouldn't I? Hold on. Where's my headset? Ah, there it is. Hold on. All right, there we go. Buddy around at 6:30 in the morning. So, oop, I got one. Morning. We are transitioning Chicago at this particular moment. Want to talk about the area, but let me get a couple other bodies on here. Real quick, where are you jumping in from, my one person? Because this is a weird time of the day to be doing this. It's like 6:20 in the morning. And hold on, I'm in traffic here. And I gotta move over. This guy. Yeah, for my one person that's on here, where are you? Where are people dialing in from? We're in Chicago, esque, going northbound right now. Just give me a few minutes here. Yeah, I got a drop that was due at 8 o'clock this morning, and following tradition, I got in there early, and they were actually there. Rang the doorbell at shipping, and the guy came running out. you know, Grab my package immediately, so I got rid of it. Let's see. Yeah, almost 2 hours early. That was kind of cool. All right, I got a few people on here. I've spent the entire weekend carrying a load, hauling a load around from North Carolina, kind of dragging my feet, working my way to Chicago, and made for a long weekend because it was the holiday week. And what I want to talk about is don't spend the night in Chicago as an expediter. Don't spend the night in a major city simply because it's not safe. To me, let me bump my speed up here a little bit. It's not safe to spend the night. When you get into the big cities, the truck stops, when you can change your name, 3 legs, and generally it's 2 legs, one brake, gear shifter. No, I've been 3 legs in all of them. What happens is at a truck stop in a big city is there's a lot of foot traffic. There's a lot of people milling around the area, and that's not what you want. And I found that out the hard way years ago. I uh, I stayed in Nashville. I went into the middle of Nashville, and there were just people everywhere wandering around, and nefarious people at that. Wait a second. And it's just not a positive. I'm gonna move over again here. Hold on. Trying to drive. All right, there. Ugh. So anyway, I moved my way forward. I spent the weekend hitting museums. I did a couple of live streams, and I found one. The Indiana Military Museum had a live fire demonstration going on, which was a lot of fun. But I have a really long, like a 2 hour stream in there at that place, and I really enjoyed it. But I was working my way north, and then you have to look at the map. And you figure out where you're going. When I just did a drop in the town of Willowbrook. I'm sorry, I'm still driving here, and the drop was due at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I got up. I drove as close to the city as I could without being in the city. Because, like I said, don't spend the night in the city. I ended up in Joliet, just south of Joliet, outside of Chicago, and they had a security guard walking around. And it was a good setup. Some places you pull into and it's just the setup is wrong. Well, it had a decent setup, so I cracked my windows, put up my blinders. It was cool enough. I didn't even run the air conditioner. And there were people milling around. I had a woman outside my door. I mean, like right next to my door, having semi-loud conversations with people and trying to get her dog's attention at midnight last night, whistling for a dog. And it's just a weird thing. And to cap that off, when I got driving this morning, hold on a second, read my street signs here. To cap that off, I'm listening to the news, and there were 56 people shot in Chicago over Labor Day weekend, including 8 dead. And if you ever want to keep up on those numbers and want to see where it's happening or when it's happening, check out a website I found a while back called it's one word, heyjackass.com. And you will see how many people, what time of the day, what neighborhoods they were in, how old they are, male, female. It breaks it all down. And I've been watching that website now for years. The only actual, in my time, I expedited a few years ago during when COVID started. And the only actual physical problem I ever ran into out here, which was back during that tour, is I keep various sundry defensive equipment here in my vehicle. And I went into a town. It was late at night, and I only had a few hours to blow before delivery time. And I ended up in a major city. Hold on a second. North 53. All right. I'm watching my GPS here. And right down the street, like a third of a mile away, was a really big gas station. So it was a really big, well lit up gas station. It was very new. And it was kind of in a sad state of repair because of the clientele. The place was kind of going to hell in a handbag, just getting trashed out, which was sad. But anyway, off to one side was a car wash with a big old street light. So I said, all right, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'll go over there and park directly under the street light, put my blinders up, and I'll sleep for the next, 4 or 5 hours. And I'll drive down the street with my delivery. But I parked. And a quirk of the van that I had is if you had the doors locked and somebody lifted the door handle, the brake light would come on, the red brake light switch for some reason. So I parked, laid my head down, I get blinders up, and I hear a click by my head, my eyes pop open, and the brake light was on. So somebody's trying to let themselves in. So I sat up, grabbed a can of pepper spray, and I've got the sliding door. And through the cracks in the blinders, I see somebody move from left to right in front of the van, and then the passenger door goes click, and then I open the slide door, and I got a good blast of pepper spray into this dude's face that was standing hold on to the van. It took him a couple of seconds to respond to the pepper spray. Whoa, red lights, red lights. I don't like that. And he wasn't really happy with me pepper spraying him, apparently. But anyway, I just slid into the driver's seat, pulled down all my... this dude lost his trailer. Yeah, you want to take that with you there, buddy. Look at this on the left. Come on, come on, come on, come on, go, dude. That ain't that hard. Look at that. Fifth wheel laying on the side axle. You didn't attach your trailer properly, dude. Whoops. Yeah, I hate it when that happens. Anyway, I drove over to the plant that I was delivering at. I pulled up to the gate, and there was a guard. He goes, "Oh, we're not doing deliveries until 7 or 8, whatever it was." And I said, "Yeah, I just had a pepper spray some guy right up the street." He goes, "Oh, sure, come on in." He let me go park. So keep that in mind. And another thing about finding your overnight accommodations, again, I run the Pilot Flying J app for the discounts on fuel and the shower credits. If you open the app, the bottom left corner of those little flames button, it'll bring up the map, and you can move the map all around the United States if you want, and find where the Pilot Flying J's are. And then when you find one that is going to be in the area you are looking for, or the area you want to pull up, the two things I check is the gas prices. first off, because it can vary wildly. But also check parking. Now, the parking it's quoting you is not for your vehicles, four-wheel vehicles, it's for trucks. But that tells you how big the truck stop is. When you click on one and it says parking for 155 vehicles, you're dealing with a uh, substantial truck stop. If it says it has parking for 8 or 10, what that what that usually means is they bought a little tiny gas station to make a presence and slap their logo on it. They have a teeny tiny parking lot up front, and there's really nowhere for you to overnight. So that's something you have to think about before you commit to going there. And I pulled into places. Whoa! I have pulled into places to spend the night in. And looked around, and it's just not right. Just the setup is wrong. Everything about it's wrong. And you just go, nope. Come on, people. I don't even know where I am on the map. I made my drop this morning in the town of Willowbrook, which is South Chicago, and I am clawing my way north to Nashotah. Work with me. Nashotah, Wisconsin, for a pickup that's scheduled at 3 o'clock today, but 99.9% of the time when you show up early, the load is ready. So if for no other reason just to get out of Chicago, I'm going up here direct. And I'm going to let my slip go in. I'll let them know I'm there. Tell them why I'm there. I'm early, acknowledge it, and then don't forget to reemphasize to tell them you're only picking up one thing. And when the receiving and shipping department is trying to do their job, and you offer up a solution to a problem of loading and unloading, because they've only got so many docks and so many docks and so much space to do their job. You're the quickest solution to one of their problems, because they have to load and unload all day long, and it only requires a forklift to move one time to get you out off their docket, for lack of a better word. For a full-size truck, it takes a while, just because they have to go in and out a million times. Me, it's one, done, see you later, and it just basically puts me in the done category for them. That's something to remember over trucking, and use that to your advantage. That's why you have to remind them that you're an expediter and or a van driver. That makes their little ears perk up. Lovely roads we're having today. Lovely roads. When I'm out here on the road, I have unlimited time to let my brain wander, and I have a tendency to go down rabbit holes. Something catches your interest, something you read, and all of a sudden I find myself researching things that don't matter. uh, I was looking for museums to visit, and I like aviation museums and I like military museums, my two that I focus on. And when I was coming north yesterday, I look at military museums near me, and then aviation museums and museums in general. I just searched, and I found a place called Chanute Air Force Base Museum. And I looked it up, and it is a decommissioned Air Force base that has a museum on site. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. And kind of read the reviews, and people are complaining about the ticket prices and the lines, and there's, the usual stuff. So I motored across country there, and I get to the place, and I find the sign, and I walk up to the front door, and it's real obvious that place has been out of business for at least a decade, based on the cobwebs and the weeds, and the interior's kind of trashed. It looks like urban explorers had been inside of the place, because some of the windows were knocked out. You could look in. So I actually shot a short video, I think it was yesterday, about that place. And if you can find it, I think it's called Urban Exploration. I mean, technically, I probably could have climbed through one of the windows and got in there, but I don't feel confident going onto a piece of, former government property, poking around. That just doesn't seem right. But I filmed through the windows. You could see the inside of the place, but it was trashed. So I did a little research on Chanute Air Force Base, and apparently the place was opened in 1970. And technically speaking, the Air Force didn't exist until 1947. It was the Army Air Corps, and then in 1939 it became the United States Army Air Force, and I believe it was in 1947 it became the United States Air Force. So they were calling this an Air Force base before there was an Air Force. So I'm curious what it was originally tagged, but it ran from 1917 until I think it's at 1988. And Cold War brought out. Got it. There was another, when I was flying out in the Gulf, the oil and gas industry, there was an air base, Matagorda Air Base, going down by Corpus Christi. It was the same thing. It was shut down in the 70s due to, don't need it for, I mean, it probably was built to fight World War II for U-boats and all that stuff down there, but they shut that base down. And on the other side of the bay, there was a little stage field. And the stage field had campers on it. It was abandoned, and people parked little travel trailers on it. And at the end of the runway, there were a pair of wings, an airplane, and a fuselage. And it was all burned up and lit on fire. And somebody said that lived there said that in the early mid 80s, an airplane landed. The crew, in the middle of the night, while the people were camping there, an airplane landed, stopped at the end of the runway. They unloaded their cargo from somewhere down south. And they watched a guy take an axe out and punch holes in the fuel tanks. They lit the plane on fire. Got in a boat left. So probably a stolen aircraft making a one-time drug run out of it. And to my knowledge, the remnants of that plane are still sitting there. It's been a while. I am on, what am I on? 50. Anyway, I'm following the GPS and it's zigzagging me all over the place. I don't know why it's doing this, but I'm getting up here, getting off the highway and doing a zig right and a zig left for some strange reason. Oh, well, the fact that the freeway is may have something to do with that. But the fact that it's now early September and it's cool outside is kind of nice. Because having to hook up this air conditioner and put all my equipment together is kind of a pain. So this helps. Cooler weather. Ooh. Yeah, I know it's early in the morning for this, but I've had people from the other side of the world tune into this stream. So I guess I'll try it at different times of the day just to see what happens. But this is northwest bound. I think I'm skirting or parallel to Chicago to the west of it. Right, like that's me. Heading to Nashua, Wisconsin for a 3 o'clock pickup, supposedly. But we're going to get up there and see what happens. Yeah, again, I like having a weekend run, especially when it's a long drive, and it gives you something to do over the weekend. If you get caught somewhere and you don't get anything on a Friday, your chances of getting something on a Saturday are somewhat limited, and Sunday is borderline non-existent. There are some exceptions, but it's very unusual to get a load on a Sunday. But there are areas that are hot. Toledo, Detroit areas stays hot. But other than that, you get stuck in it, just make sure you can drag. Yeah. Now it's sunny. I gotta go 143 down this road and turn back to the north. Whoa. Ooh. And I told HQ, and I'm going to call him here in a little while. I need to get back to Texas. I got to see the wifey poop. Yeah. I'm having a, I think, a bushing issue with the van. Oh, the van drives fine. It goes all over it drives normal. It doesn't have a wobble. It doesn't, it's off a little bit. It doesn't have a wobble. It doesn't have a shake. It doesn't have any bad habits except at low speeds. When I go over a little bump, the left front part of the van rattles like it's coming apart. So I think the bushing is shot. So I'm gonna probably have both the frame bushings and the steering stuff replaced when I get home. I just rolled 159,000 miles on this vehicle, which means I put 50,000 miles on since I bought it in January. But no complaints. It runs good. Well, that's a bright sun. Like I said, if you're looking somewhere to hole up for the night, you know, pick where you're going to go. Don't be the only van there. You don't want to stand out. If the place doesn't feel right, don't stay there. That's all there is to it. If it's a place, if you walk in there in broad daylight and they got a security guard, it's probably not the place you want to stay. That's just kind of an indicator that they know there's a problem. There's not many of them have security guards walking around. And you could tell the security guard because he's wearing all kinds of tactical gear. And he's got a snarl on his face. Half a mile. That's my mileage. 21.9. I got some topics to go over, but that's gonna be for a nighttime. I was watching this thing about uh, making movies. They're making movies different than they used to. Big budget movies, big cast, big sets. And they don't really do that anymore. These days, it's all CGI and the computer you can make it. But they still have in the past. And one of the last big budget, big setting movies was the Pirates of the Caribbean, the Johnny Depp ones, and they picked whichever island they filmed it on in the Caribbean that had the look they needed. It was an undeveloped area. They, go to the government to say, hey, we want to bring in crew and film a big movie here. Can we do it? Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. They go, well, it's going to bring a lot of people and a lot of equipment. They're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. They make money off it. Tax money, jobs, tourism. So they came in and their infrastructure at that island was so primitive that they had that the film production had to bring in crews to build roads just to move their gear around. He said, I don't think this little island nation understood what we said when we told them we're coming in big, we're coming in heavy. I think their version of it was different than ours. And then one other big movie that was made was that a couple of years ago, that more recent Mad Max movie where they were out in the desert. It was like Nairobi or somewhere. And they asked the government, can we go out the desert? And they're like, yeah, so we're going to make a mess, but we'll clean it up. And they're like, okay, well, if you've seen the movie, they blew stuff up all over the place. And I think it caught the government off guard. They weren't expecting that much. But I mean, they did clean it up when they were done, but they blew that place up. Fireballs and explosions, car wrecks, the whole rigmarole. Because in Africa, where they shot in Tunisia, where they shot the original Star Wars, for whatever reason, when they left everything behind, which little rude, little uncalled for. But today it's a tourist attraction. People go there to see the sets because all the equipment is still there, which is cool. But I think that's what set the precedent. And again, I don't know why the GPS is putting me here. So I'm trying to drive into Wisconsin. I'm going north. Hey, I'm going to 3/10 of a mile. They're getting me back on 83. I hope that's got to find out the hard way. Ooh. Actually, I slept pretty good last night. Nice change. It's like this whole area, just one giant construction zone. Okay, I'm moving the GPS around. All right, let's see what's going on here. Route preferences. All right, I think what this is doing has been pushing me off of toll roads because I normally avoid toll roads like the plague. So let me see if I can move myself back onto a toll road just so I can get. Yep, they're putting me back on a toll. That's fine. I just don't want to spend all day bouncing around through the city. So this is going to run me up and around in a circle and put me on 94. Yeah, it sucks paying tolls, but I don't want to spend all day going through Chicago and turning around and coming back through Chicago again. My dad's actually from here, this south side of Chicago. That's where he grew up. I had talked about this a long time ago, but from 1936 to 1974, my grandfather was the guy that got to choose the toys that went in the Cracker Jack box. And during World War II, he worked in a defense plant because his job was considered, quote, essential. So he's working this, Cracker Jack, Kellogg, whoever the parent company is, and then he's working in a defense plant. Like, in the meantime, back in the 40s and 50s, you got to remember that the laws of how you do business were different back then. Like, let's call it what it is. Bribery was legal. They didn't make an issue out of it. So think about you operating a company and you're wanting Cracker Jack to buy 15 or 20 million units of your little trinket, your little aircraft, or your car, or your whatever. And the guy that makes the decision, yay or nay, is standing in front of you. What are you willing to do for him to convince him? Right lane must turn right. Can't do it. What are you doing to be willing to do to convince him to buy your product? I mean, think about that. That was the crosshair my grandfather was in for 35-ish years. It's almost 40 years. And my dad, as a kid, he was born in 42. And he said, growing up, he remembers when people would show up at the front door of the house and you'd knock on the door and sign here and hand them hey, what's up? Hand him an envelope that had a set of car keys and a title to a car that's now parked in the driveway. That kind of stuff happened. Uh, my dad said it's growing up, they used to go on these elaborate vacations to Myrtle Beach and Miami, all paid for by whomever was getting, the kickback from it. There was a time my grandfather wanted to go duck hunting and he needed a shotgun. And, somebody shows up with a Browning double barrel shotgun with engraved barrels, all artistic with gold inlay and some ridiculously ornate firearm. The house they grew up in, my grandfather built it in 1946, lived in it until they died in 86. And they had a family room on the back, and it came up in conversation that the family room was built by a crew in one day. Just showed up. Again, part of that little, we call it Bakish. Our crew showed up with all the equipment, went out in the backyard and put on this family room. Just pop, bing, bang, pow, they were done. And they left. And it was probably not done with permits either. Had a green arrow. I didn't run that light. Right. Yeah, now I'm getting run up here in the toll road. Sucks, but can't do anything about it. Uh, but that's my connection to Chicago. It's kind of weak, but that's how I ended up knowing this area. And on one of my playlists under vacation, the wife and I, or the scenic route, my wife and I came up here back in 22. We were doing a podcast in Cleveland, and on the way up or back, we stopped in Chicago and went to the Museum of Natural History, and that's where the U-505 has been kept. And that is a German U-boat that was captured at sea in combat. Oh, it's right across the street. A submarine hunter-killer group found it and circled it underwater. They just keep it underwater until they run out of air and run out of electricity, and they have to pop to the surface. And the crew bailed out, and there's plugs you can open, and it lets seawater in. It floods the boat sinks. Now, there's also a self-detonation charge, and they popped to the surface, pulled the plug, lit the fuse, and jumped out. And a Navy boat raced over. Some guy found the explosive, pulled the fuse out, and then they found one of the flood valves partially open, and they closed it. And the sub almost, but not quite, sank. And the crew didn't follow policy and throw the code books and the Enigma machine over the side, and they were able to capture all that. They started stripping equipment as fast as they could because it appeared it was going to sink, but it ended up not sinking in the last second. So they couldn't have the Germans find out that they captured one of their subs. So the crew was placed in POW. Only one member of their crew died in all this. They kept all their crew isolated during the rest of the war, because if they would have gone to a regular POW camp, they would have written letters home to say, oh, by the way, the Americans captured our sub. They argue about, and that would kind of ruin the technological advantage they had. So they kept them isolated for the entire war. And when the war ended, then they let their families know that they had been, in a POW situation. The submarine was kept, I think they parked it in Bermuda, if I'm not mistaken, to glean, all the technology out of it. And then it sat around for a while, and military, government people would strip bits and pieces off it, souvenirs. And then by the early 50s, it was just a hulk. And they were going to use it as a target ship until one of the museums said, hey, we'll take it. They got it totaled museum. It was in 1954, and they were able to pick it up and literally drive it across the street out of Lake Michigan. And they parked it outdoors to make it into a spaceship, but the inside of the sub was stripped. So they contacted the manufacturer and said, hey, do you guys have any of these parts so we can put this back together? The response from Germany, this is, mind you, 10 years after the war, was, we're not really happy that you have that, but we'll make it a monument to German engineering. So what do you need? You have warehouses full of supplies. So in a very, very classy act in acknowledging historical significance, the manufacturing firm, which who knows what the name was, they said, what do you need? And they walked around inside the submarine and took pictures of the inside. And they sent them everything they needed to rebuild the interior of the sub. All the parts, all the hatches, all the valves, all the levers, everything to rebuild it. including some people to come over and help them rebuild it, which I thought that was classy. So now you have a piece of history that's been preserved. And as a tourist, you can go to Chicago Museum of Natural History and you can go tour through it with a tour guide. And the wife and I were able to compare that to an American World War II submarine in Cleveland, right there by the lakefront airport. It's called the cod, as in the codfish. And the German U-boat is very small inside, very cramped, very, very small and cramped. Whereas the American submarine World War II boat, I don't know what class it is, seems to go on forever. And it had lots of rooms and a kitchen area where people could sit down and eat at tables. There were all kinds of rooms for sleeping and whatnot. Whereas the Germans didn't actually have a kitchen, a dining area, didn't have separated rooms. It's just very, very cramped in there. The only two people on a German U-boat that own their own bunk is the captain and the cook, because the cook's work schedule is so wishy-washy. In the kitchen on the German U-boat was a little, think of a phone booth. You step in the room and you could just pivot on one location and have access to everything you had to cook and to do your job. It was all right there in a circle. It's ridiculously small. But that's what they had, that's what they used. And something else about the difference in designs between German and American submarines during the war is American submarine had a tall superstructure, and the German was very, very low lying. And if you think about that, in the curvature of the Earth, the visibility on that lower deck made a huge difference long term. We are 1.7 miles from getting on the highway, so we'll be on a regular highway going north there at 1.6 miles and be out of the sun. Wow. Lovely roads. Lovely roads we're having today. I have some deeper topics that I want to do this tonight if I'm driving tonight. On interstate. Yeah, I don't want to spend all day crashing around through town. Oh, it's actually getting colder. It's down to 59. No pun intended. Cool. Yeah. I still have to make my morning short. I haven't done that yet. I'll do it when I get up here. I always have some kind of smart ass video to make in the mornings. Come on, people. Come on, people. Light's been green for a while. 1 mile. Uh, oh, I hate paying tolls, but not how much of a choice matter sometimes. All right, almost to the interstate. Blah, tenths of a mile. Okay, we're going up the hill. We're going to get off this sunlight parade ground right here. Oof, sorry about this. I didn't know this was going to do this today. Whew. Almost there. Over this hill, turn left, sun's out of our face. Do, 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 do. Come on, left turn. Come on, left turn. Come on, left turn. Here we go. Out of the sun. Actually getting colder, which is kind of awesome. Here we are in the middle of the summer. Come on. On. There we go. There we go. Ooh. Yeah, no one's paying attention. Oh my God. All right. I'm gonna spin this around. Okay. I spun the camera. Earlier I was talking. Check my quarter panel here. Woo. Wow. My GPS was zigzagging me all over town. I was driving directly into the sun. Have a good time. Oof. So anyway, now I'm headed north. I'm going to Nashotah, Wisconsin for a pickup. It's supposed to be pickup at 3, but with rare exception, when you get there early, they will let you have your load. And one of the reasons is the cargo's ready. But one of the reasons is they have a laundry list of pickups and drops they have to get shipping, receiving. Sometimes same office, sometimes different offices. No pattern to it. And you can, because I'm picking up one pallet, maybe two most, they can get me off their docket faster. That's why they like sprinter vans coming through there. So when you go into a shipper, remember to tell them that you're in a van. You're not in a truck and you don't need a dock. You need a rail. That's important because their ears perk up. Because you're a simple solution to one of their problems for the day. And alrighty. So right now we are okay, 15 miles. That is cold. Uh, this is 94, Highway 94, outside of Chicago, northbound right now. And we are heading for a pickup that's supposed to be there at 3 o'clock. It is 7 o'clock in the morning. I'll be there, since I'll be there about 8:30. And again, there is no obligation for them to load you when you get there early, but usually they're ready. If you have a big truck, no. Little truck, man, yeah, they got your one thing. So I'm going to see if I can get this. I'm delivering it. Supposed to be there in the morning to Lorain, Ohio, which is just to the west of Cleveland. And I'm going to call, once I've loaded, I'm going to call dispatch. I'm going to ask them, what is it? It's a Ford plan. I can drop it off anytime. Excuse me. And that's what I'm looking for. The ability to unload me back on the board. Excuse me. Coming over. My lane's about to go away. So anyway, that's the excitement today. A quick recap. You're going to spend the night on the road. You're going to a truck stop. Don't stay in a big city. There's way too much foot traffic. There's nefarious characters creeping around. And I spent the night south of Joliet, Illinois, which is outside of Chicago to the south. And it was a good setup for parking. But as the night wore on, the foot traffic picked up and there were people milling around. That's kind of disturbing. Oh, here we go. So driving under a giant fishbowl. It is 7:10 and there are still trucks parked on the side of the road on the ramps and stuff. Truck drivers, big trucks, if I understand it correctly, they can't drive more than 11 hours in a day. Not allowed to physically drive more than 11 hours. And they have, used to be paper logbooks, and now it's electronic and they have tracking devices. And there's a device that is universally called a Qualcomm. It tracks where you are, how much time you have in service, how many hours you've been on the road. And when their time is up, they can't drive anymore. And you may be in the middle of nowhere, so they park at a truck stop, which doesn't have enough room, or they go to a rest area, which doesn't have enough room. So they park on exit ramps, on ramps and off ramps, which isn't legal, but they have to do it. They don't have a choice in the matter. So the highway patrol just leaves them alone. Sorry, my nose is drying out. I'm used to like humid climate. And I was just noticing back there on the side of the road that they still have some trucks sitting around at 7:10 in the morning, which is all right. Well, we are outside of Chicago, cruise up 94. I'm going to cut this off because I got to make a few phone calls here to HQ. Take care.